Hello, YouTube. Those of you that just are binging, just popped over from part 4, what up? Good to see you again. I appreciate all of you for being here. Thanks for making it to part 5 of Dragon Age Origins with a Therapist. I certainly hope you've been enjoying it so far. Part 4 was a nice little expository journey into the lore of the world, and so we'll see if we get any action tonight. But as always, I appreciate you being here. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me in all the links down in the description, join us in Discord, all that fun stuff. Would love to have you here also live at some point on Twitch, twitch.tv/DrMick, 9:30 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday. Let's rock and roll. Gotta love how Sten's still missing his arms.
As you wish.
He appreciates when I'm silent. That is so weird. Maybe if I give him this. Oh. Whatever. I need him, arms or not, I need him to be a little bit stronger here. I also need to give him a... a sword. I'm gonna need to get him a two-handed sword for sure. For now, that one sword will do. It's a little early, Sean, so not yet. Okie dokie. Where do I want to go here? Current quests. Gain Orzamar's aid in battling the Blight. Gain cooperation of the Dalish. Okay. Lothering. There is a notice on the Chancellor's board about bandit groups lurking north of Lothering. There are 3 groups in all and they must be eradicated. Let's do that. Let's see what Sten's got in him here. Also, let's go into this cornfield real quick. See what... What is going on here? These bandits? Oh, they are. We have fun here, don't we? Everything does seem to be a little bit more noisy today. I'm going to turn that down. Don't worry. What's up, YouTube? Welcome. I'm at, whatever. This is what it is. It's crashing, and that's nothing we can do about it. Hopefully the volume's better. Sean wants to do a super cut, he can. Again! Go this way.
Time for more practice.
What's up, guys?
Test, test.
Sten? What's up, YouTube? Welcome to part 5 of Dragon Age Origins with a Therapist. I appreciate you so much taking the time to come hang out with me and Sten in the buff. We have been dealing with some technical issues this evening. I'm hoping that this works well and that this is the last time I have to do this intro. But I appreciate so much y'all being here. Make sure you like the stream. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. I love reading all the comments that y'all have left, so thank you so much for leaving those and taking the time to do that. As always, make sure you follow me in the description. All the links are down below, including Discord, where you can get announcements about when I go live. And I would love to have you here live for a stream sometime on Twitch. Twitch.tv/DrMick, Tuesday through Sunday, 9:30 p.m. Pacific time. Appreciate y'all. Love of God, please work. All right. I have uninstalled all of the mods that I was using up until this point. So if this doesn't work, I don't know what to do. All right. Okay, so apparently I don't have a helmet anymore. Okay, that's fine. I also don't have my weapon anymore. That's even more fun. Oh, great. Okay, so some of the weapons I had were from the mods. If I recall correctly, there's a chest in this town. This is really ridiculous.
I'm off.
Give me this long sword. Oh, jeez. At least I still have my shield.
That marshman stole from me. I know it.
All right, this is the field of death. The field of death and crashing. Hold your breath. On guard. Here, you knuckleheads. Don't worry about the changing color of the field, chat. Here we go. I love field work. Welcome to the Nintendo 64 version of Dragon Age Origins. Look at this pop in. It's like I'm playing World of Warcraft right now. Come on.
Are you joking?
Oh, chat.
You are banter. Yes.
Your high polygons will not slow us down. Oh my god. Alright, those of you watching this on YouTube, if you don't know what the hell is happening right now, this game has crashed about 20 times. Maybe Sean can do a nice supercut of the game crashing. What a very interesting low polygon field we're visiting for the first time. We gotta go low res until we get the hell out of Lothering. Once we get the hell out of Lothering, I will bump the textures up again. We kill all these. Whoa! Alright. Spider's down. This spider had chainmail on it. That makes sense. Huh. Also, what am I doing? Man, I got my music playing in the background. What a nightmare. Okay,
Yes.
we're good. Save before it crashes again. Please, I beg of you. It's done. It is done. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't tell the difference either way. I mean, this is very low texture, but it is what it is. I want to see what's in this field, and then when we get out of Lothering... Even in high res, it kind of... I noticed a difference. There's a pretty big difference in my mind in terms of, like, the high versus low textures. Like, I feel like I'm playing World of Warcraft right now.
Bad breath alert.
Bad breath alert? Who says that? What's up, guys?
Going.
Also, while we destroy all of these stupid bandits, can we just get a nice little shout out for Sadie for the troubleshooting? Appreciate you, Sadie. Thank you very much. Ooh, the bandit leader. Alright, time to knock him on his ass. Bitch!
Going.
Good shit. Alright, bandit leader down. And of course I can't open his chest. Studded leather armor. Take it, because I can sell it. If for nothing else. Let's see. Whoa, these guys had a lot of shit on it. Look at that. Soldier's helm. Not a lot of armor on that, but at least I can get a helmet now. Let's take all that. Let's take that. Let's go ahead and throw this on. Soldier's helm. Ooh, heavy chainmail gloves. Nice heavy chainmail boots. Yeah. Heavy chainmail. I'm already wearing that. Good shit. All right, got me a helmet. Let's get Sten into some heavy chainmail. There we go. And some ancient elven boots and a Canary hat. Good stuff. Alrighty. Sten, looking good, brother. We match. What do we got here now? Jeez!
Oh, look! It wants to fight!
Man, it would really suck to be the people that live in Lothering. Like, you gotta deal with all these people, too, like, outside of your camp. Impossible to get in. Pain in the ass. Oh, I died. Oh, shit. I was not paying attention. Let's go. I want to be Sten. Tank it, Sten. This naked guy. What are you doing here? Alright. Shit. Alright. I'm alive. Doing better. A million bandits and low-res textures. This town would suck to live in. It really would.
Yes.
We're doing these folks a great service, though. I think that looks like it probably everybody, so make our way back here. Splint mail.
Are we
Who are
done
these
with this
guys? More refugees.
We done heard what was said. You're a warden. I don't know if you killed King Kalen, and make her forgive me, I don't care. But that bounty on your head could feed a lot of hungry bellies. Attack!
And Logain knows it. Oh, guys, come on. Can't talk through this? This will be your undoing.
Yes,
Oh, Sten, I'm good.
as you wish.
Alright, let's talk a second about why this is bad. Logain has put us into a massive trap. People are struggling, people need money, people need resources, and they're scared. He puts a bounty out on Grey Wardens. He paints Grey Wardens as if they are bad, and he scares... we talked about this, right? He's scared people now about the Grey Wardens. Why this is particularly terrible is now when people try to kill Grey Wardens because it's not take them alive, it's kill them because they need resources, so they take the risk that these people just took. It makes me look even worse because now I kill innocent civilians. Even though they may have attacked me and tried to get the bounty, any act of self-defense is going to seem like I am on the offensive, like I'm being a dick, that I am fulfilling the narrative that Logain has created about the Grey Wardens. So this is just a shit sandwich for us all the way around. And I'm not a fan, but it's a really good tactic on Logain's part. Really good tactic on his part. Oh, man. Now I'm about to steal these people's money and use it to buy stuff that they could have bought instead of trying to kill me. Not great, man. It's just not great. Back into the town we go. Now let's go see if that was enough to clear the bounty board. I think it had to have been.
Blessed are the peacekeepers, champions of the just.
Okay, achievement unlocked. Pilgrim. 3 gold for that. Good lord, this guy's sitting on fat cash and he's not helping anybody out? When bears attack. On behalf of Thed the farmer and his departed son, I inscribe this missive. As the Maker is my witness, I charge all those with knowledge of arms and armor to brave the dangers of the northern wood to find the family of bears that mauled and killed the boy Enith. For they are an abomination in the Maker's sight, and have their hides would prove great comfort to the northern farms and solace for Thed's family. As chanter for Lothering, I do pledge a sum of 1 sovereign to whoever carries out this, the Maker's will. Exercise caution first and foremost, may his light bathe us all. A last keepsake. A thanks to all villagers who've opened their barns and crofts to the refugees in these dark times. The chantry regularly bears praise from our visitors, and your virtuous deeds are mentioned in many prayers. Sadly, there is a lone boy in the village whose mother, Goodwife Sarha, is missing. As she's been missing for the better part of a week as of this writing, she is presumed dead. May the Maker bless her passing. She was a lady of middle years with red hair and fond of a green cloak. If any traveler resident comes across her in the wilds, please return her body or the effects of her on her remains. In later years, the boy will be thankful to have such keepsakes to remember his brave mother by. The office of the chanter will compensate this kindness with the sum of 50 silvers. May the Maker turn his gaze on us all. Alright. If he helped them out now, it'd be unfair to all the people who helped themselves earlier. No, it wouldn't. I hate that argument. I don't know if you're making that argument tongue in cheek or if you're legitimately making that argument. I absolutely despise the argument that helping people now is a slight on people who helped themselves earlier. There is nothing wrong with helping people. It has to start at some point. Whenever, like, there will always be people who miss out on some form of assistance because they weren't there at the right place at the right time. And the idea that because a person didn't receive help at a given point in time means that other people shouldn't receive help when it's available. Oh, okay, good, Yash. Okay, thank you for clarifying, Yashpar. Yeah, I hear that argument way too legitimately, way too often, and it pisses me off. Would that be similar to sunk cost fallacy? No, not really. Sunk cost fallacy is the idea that you'll continue to do something because you've sunk a lot of time and energy into it, even when it's against your best interests to stop. Or, like, even when it's in your best interest to stop. Alright. So... like how the Blackstone liaison is now naked. Blackstone Irregulars box. Scraping of the barrel. My friend, there are a number of people who pledge to aid the Blackstone Irregulars in times of needs. These times are now. Here you will find 3 letters of conscription. Deliver them to people listed below and return to the Irregulars for your payment. Should any of these people refuse, do what you must to get them to honor their oaths. Durnall Garrison, Redcliffe. Pater Grich, Lothering. Varro Bairn, Denerim. Sure. Dereliction of duty. My friend. The Irregulars require a trusted agent to track down and deal with deserters. Do this, and you will be rewarded. These deserters took with them valuable supplies crucial to the Irregulars' future as supplier of martial services. Deal with these wastes of space as you see fit, and bring the supplies back as proof that the problem has been dealt with. We will ask no questions as to your methods or the final condition of the deserters. Use your own discretion. You will likely find them in the following locations: Samael in Lake Callanhead, Layson in Denerim, and Tornus in the Frostback Mountains. Sure. New Codex. Blackstone Letter of Conscription. Dear friend, you are receiving this letter because you or someone else placed your name on an article of conscription, thereby pledging your life to the Blackstone Irregulars. With war looming on all fronts, the Irregulars must build their numbers. We are forced to call upon those who have sworn their assistance to make good on those oaths. Say farewell to your friends and family. While you may return to them, you must prepare them for the possibility that this will be your last day together. Your sacrifice is appreciated. Teorin. This letter is marked with the seal of the Blackstone Irregulars. Yeah. Giant spider. Giant spiders tend to appear in old ruins and other places where the veil has become thin because of magical disturbances or a great number of deaths. In such places, spirits and demons pass into the world of the living and attempt to take control over living beings, spiders among them. Not all scholars accept this explanation for the presence of these beasts, however. Some claim that the thinning veil allows magic to leak from the Fade, tainting such creatures as these spiders to transform into larger and more potent creatures than they ever would become naturally. While such spiders are known to possess powerful poisons and the ability to fling their webs at opponents in combat, studies of them have been few and the full range of their abilities are unknown. Yeah, so, I mean, one of the things that was interesting about this Irregulars thing is that there are people who said... did you notice how it said people who have had their name thrown in the pot? Not great. Oh, well, it shows me where everything is. Okay. Well, let's go out into the field. You think it's safe to turn the textures up, or should I leave Lothering first? I'll keep the textures down until we leave Lothering, and then I'll turn them up. Especially since apparently we have more to fight. Oh, we got wolves now. Okay. Oh my god, there's a lot of wolves. Oh my god, there's a lot of wolves. Every wolf in all of Ferelden is here. Every single one of them. Well, I appreciate the experience we've gained from killing all of those wolves. Good lord. More bears? Oh god.
Oh, time to play.
This would be terrifying. Have to fight bears like this. Okay. Alright, so bears are dead. Now that kid's mom's body is up here. Oh no. You found the body of the boy's mother and have recovered her keepsake. Bummer, man. Alright, let's go turn this in. A real shame, if you ask me. We gotta ruin a kid's day.
So tell me something, Morrigan. Did you live there in that forest your entire life?
I left it on occasion, but I always returned. Why? Is that so strange? It was my home.
But it was just you and your mother there. No one else.
Mother occasionally had company.
What? Company? Do I even want to ask?
No, you really don't.
Where do you get the mods you were using from? Nexus mods?
Blessed are the peacekeepers, champions of the just. And the stars stood still, the winds did quiet, and all animals of earth and air held their breath. All was silent in prayer and thanks.
Right?
For a foundation built of stone, marble...
Now, we gotta find... We gotta find that kid, I think.
Or any precious metal was worthless if fate...
Give him the keepsake. Where that kid is, I do not know. Robbed child?
Who are you? Can you protect us?
I can, but I'm not going to because I've gotta go. Sorry, man. Perhaps the Maker will watch over you. Where's that little kid? Little kid! Little kid looking for your mom? Little kid? Little kid? Where art thou, little kid?
What's to be done?
Is he in the pub? No, that wouldn't make any sense.
Going.
I have news about your mother!
So
News!
Lothering is the new regent. Isn't that a good thing?
I heard that he may have had something to do with the king.
You do not truly think I look as my mother does, do you?
Have you really been thinking about that all this time?
I am simply curious.
And not insecure in the slightest, I'm sure.
I think I look nothing like her.
I don't know. Give it a few hundred years and it'll be a spot-on match.
I said that I look nothing like her.
All right, got it. Totally different. I see that now.
Kid with red hair, where are you? Something tells me he would be marked on the map.
I want to go home.
Were you really in that cage for 20 days?
It might have been closer to 30. I stopped counting after a while.
What did you do? I mean, 20 days is a long time to sit in one place and do nothing.
On good days, I posed riddles to the passers-by, offering them treasures in exchange for correct answers.
Really?
No.
Aw, too bad. That's got serious potential.
I want to go
Really?
home.
No. I love how direct Sten is. Just no. Well, that kid's not here, so we got paid for the deed. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we probably move on. And there's nobody for the Blackstone Irregulars here. So, alas, it is time to leave and head north. Isn't that the kid next to the chanter? I don't think so. Maybe it is.
So many strangers are about now.
No, that's the kid that interprets the guy. Why does Alistair continue to push Morrigan's buttons now that she's in the party? Seemingly he would want to play nice to build their group compatibility. She pokes him too. Well, they each poke each other. They have some kind of tension between the two of them. I think in part because Alistair has a bit of a biased approach to mages. I think it is a result of growing up in the Chantry and then being a Templar. And Morrigan, I think, just wants to cut Alistair down as a way to maintain her own sense of power and control in the group. But they banter back and forth pretty, like, consistently with each other. So I wouldn't say that he keeps poking her any more than she's poking him. Alright, let's get out of here.
Away with you, foul creatures! Leave us alone!
Oh shit! Oh damn! Boy, this is not good. This also means they're coming from the north. Why are there darks?
Mighty timely arrival there, my friend. I'm much obliged.
You're welcome.
The name's Bodon Feddick, merchant and entrepreneur. This here is my son, Sandal. Say hello, my boy.
Hello.
Road's been mighty dangerous these days. Mind if I ask what brings you out here? Perhaps we're going the same way.
It's a bit complicated, but you're certainly welcome to come with.
Complicated? Somehow I imagine that only says half of it. Thank you for the offer, but there may be more excitement on your path then is good for my boy and me. Allow me to bid you farewell and good fortune.
Goodbye.
Now then, let's get this mess cleaned up, shall we?
All right.
We'll be off as soon as this mess is cleaned up. Thank you kindly for all your assistance.
Sandal, what's
Hello.
up? Hello.
Yes.
Small carved statuette, short bow. I don't really have a lot of range.
And I'm off.
Sealed letter. Maleficarum regrets. I won't go back. Let them hunt and dread finding me. But you, Malice, should not live this life. It would please me if you found a life in the Circle Tower. I left a few things there, mostly stolen from the enchanters. Sell them to fund a new path. The cache is in the study area, middle alcove. Goodbye, Belgrus. Air. No beast is more beloved by Dirthamen than the bear. When the world was new, Dirthamen gave one secret to each creature to keep. The foxes traded their secrets to Andril for wings. The hares shouted theirs to the treetops. The birds sold theirs for gold and silver. Only the bears kept Dirthamen's gift deep within their dens. They slept for months away in the company of their secrets and nothing else. When the Dirthaman discovered what had been done with his gifts, he snatched the wings from the foxes, silenced the voices of the hares, and turned the birds into paupers. But the bears he honored for their steadfastness. Transcribed from a Dalish tale, 9-8 Dragon. Normally, it is almost unheard of for bears to attack travelers. They are in fact so shy and so inactive during the day that most people never encounter a bear at all. However, should a bear be provoked, they are remarkably dangerous. The normally placid-seeming creatures become enraged and can strike massive blows with their paws, capable of knocking a man off his feet. What's up, Jugger? Alright, let's get out of here. Gather your party and venture forth. Let's do it. Flashing light warning.
Bad dreams, huh?
Are you but? Yeah. Probably something I ate. Ate some garlic for dinner.
Drank more like, as in the tainted blood, remember? You see, part of being a Grey Warden is being able to hear the Darkspawn. That's what your dream was, hearing them. The Archdemon, it talks to the Horde, and we feel it just as they do. That's why we know this is really a blight.
Is that the dragon? Why didn't Duncan just tell everyone that? I do want to know that.
He did. He said he felt the Archdemon's presence. Everyone just assumed he was guessing. It takes a bit, but eventually you can block the dreams out. Some of the older Grey Wardens say they can understand the Archdemon a bit, but I sure can't. Anyhow, when I heard you thrashing around, I thought I should tell you. It was scary at first for me, too.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
That's what I'm here for. To deliver unpleasant news and witty one-liners. Anyhow, you're up now, right? Let's pull up camp and get a move on.
New quest, enchant. Right, so we're at camp. Now, I'm gonna give this a shot. Wish me luck. I like when games are pretty.
Yes?
I'd like to talk.
Well, here I am.
Tell me a little bit more about this vision of yours. Dino Grape, thanks for the Prime sub.
I knew this would come up sooner or later. I don't know how to explain. But I had a dream. In it, there was an impenetrable darkness. It was so dense, so real. And there was a noise, a terrible, ungodly noise. I stood on a peak and watched as the darkness consumed everything. And when the storm swallowed the last of the sun's light, I fell. And the darkness drew me in.
Okay, go on.
When I woke, I went to the Chantry's gardens, as I always do. But that day, the rosebush in the corner had flowered. Everyone knew that bush was dead. It was grey and twisted and gnarled, the ugliest thing you ever saw. But there it was, a single beautiful rose. It was as though the Maker stretched out his hand to say, even in the midst of this darkness, there is hope and beauty. Have faith.
It's an interesting illustration of confirmation bias. I'm not trying to be mean about like what she saw and what her dream was and the meaning she made out of it. That's not the point of what I'm about to say. But when something anomalous like that happens at a moment where something else is going on, people will make meaning out of that. And they will often make meaning out of it in a way that is akin to confirmation bias. Confirmation bias being that we seek out information and data that confirms our suspicions or expectations about something. We're sort of pre-wired to do that. So Leliana has this dream. There's this rose bush. A rose happens to rise up out of the rose bush. And the meaning she makes out of it is her own. It's not necessarily the truth. It doesn't mean that the Maker was shining upon us. This is just what she made of it. So other people could have seen that rose bush. Maybe a botanist comes by and goes, oh yeah, no, the circumstances were good for that rose. It makes total sense that it showed up here. Just the literal physics of it are fine. Somebody else could align that with their own expectations or worries about what's going on in the world. All of this is to say that there could be an actual truthful explanation for what it is, but a lot of times folks will let their confirmation bias get in the way of that, particularly if it's important for them to have data to support an argument that they have. And this is just a normal psychological process, but one that we all need to be mindful of. I'm not trying to dispute what happened to her or what meaning was made out of it, but it is important for us to take it with a grain of salt because we weren't there and we don't know what other people thought about the fact that that rose bush showed up. Also, Dirk needs to shut the hell up. I don't like hearing a barking dog in the background. All right. Dirk, zip it. And this made you want to help me?
In my dream, I fell. Or maybe I jumped. I'd do anything to stop the blight. I know that we can do it. There are so many good things in the Maker's world. How can I sit by while the blight devours everything?
This is, man, these are pretty rough. The Chantry says the Maker has left us. I suppose I couldn't sit by either. That's probably the more connective way to go about this.
That is why you're a Grey Warden. Come, there's a blight to stop.
There is.
Yes?
I'd like to talk.
Well, here I am.
What was life like in the Chantry cloister?
Quiet. It was a life suited for contemplation. In the cloister, away from the fuss and the flurry of the cities, I found peace. And in that stillness, I could hear the Maker. But it was not perfect. Some of my Chantry fellows were condescending. That is the nature of religious folk, I suppose.
Oh, so condescending?
When I talked about my beliefs, that the Maker reveals himself in the beauty of his world, they treated me with disdain. They want to believe that he's gone, so that when he turns his gaze on them, it means they are special, chosen. He cannot possibly have love for all, the sick and the weary, the beggars and the fools.
Interesting. What did you say to them?
What can I say to them? What they believe is what the Chantry says, and the Chantry is infallible, yes? Maybe I am wrong. But it is the Maker's place to decide if I am worthy, not men, not the Chantry. But there is work to be done, and I have talked enough for now.
I respect that. One of the things I like about the way that she's conceptualized that is she has essentially said the organization of the Chantry is not the thing that is the primary driver of what it is that I do and what I think and what I believe. She has exerted some level of personal autonomy and thought. She believes in the Maker, but she doesn't necessarily believe in the socialization of the Chantry around the Maker. I give her a lot of credit for that. So that conversation gives us a little bit of window into this idea that, like, Leliana is working off of her own convictions in line with what she believes about the Maker, as opposed to doing something just blindly. And for me, as the leader of this party, it increases my sense of confidence in her as somebody who's with us in the party. And I think that means that she can also appreciate a level of critical thought and sophisticated approaches to things, as opposed to just letting an organization tell her what to believe. That's good stuff. That's really good stuff. I think it's important for people to find their autonomy amongst groups. Particularly, I mean, when we start talking about, like, religious and spiritual groups, that can be very rigid. And she has decided that she wants to make her own meaning out of this and go with what she has experienced and really think through it. And I think that's cool. I really do. Alistair, what do you got for me, buddy?
What do you need?
I want to ask you something.
Ask away.
What can a Templar do, exactly?
Essentially, they're trained to fight. The Chantry would tell you that the Templars exist simply to defend. But don't let them fool you. They're an army. The other main purpose for a Templar is, of course, to hunt mages. To that end, we train in talents that drain mana and disrupt spells.
Could others learn these talents?
Perhaps, but there usually isn't much of an opportunity. The Chantry keeps a close rein on its Templars. We are given lyrium to help develop our magical talents, you see. Which means we become addicted. And since the Chantry controls the lyrium trade with the dwarves, well, I'm sure you can put 2 and 2 together.
Whoa. You were addicted to this?
Thankfully, no. You only start receiving lyrium once you've taken your vows. You don't need lyrium in order to learn the Templar talents. Lyrium just makes Templar's talents more effective. Or so I was told. Maybe it doesn't even do that. The Chantry usually doesn't let their Templars get away either, so they can spread their secrets. I'm a bit of an exception. Lucky me.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Help people find these powers, then give them a driver of those powers that they get addicted to and fall prey to, and then control the means of production and trade? Oof.
What do you need? Ask away.
Why have you remained a Templar if you hate the Chantry?
Have you seen the uniform? It's not only stylish, but well made. I'm a sucker for good tailoring.
Totally fair, dude. They're the coolest armor I've seen so far. I don't think I've ever seen you wearing it.
I keep it hidden under my pillow. Sometimes I'll take it out just so I can hug it fondly and remember the good old days. Brings a tear to the eyes, you know.
What's the real reason?
You don't really want to know about my being a Templar, do you? It's really quite boring.
So he has had 2 layers of defense to this question. Two of them. First one is to deflect with humor and make a joke, which he tends to do when we encroach on something that he's vulnerable about. And the second one is for him to try to suggest that we don't care about this. Right? To deflect with, oh, it's boring. Alistair has been very quick to tell us all sorts of things that he thinks are interesting or that are about our experience. But he's not particularly open to talking about his own. It could perhaps be because Duncan, who's as close to a father figure as he has, is no longer with us, and he's trying to figure out who's safe and who's not. Regardless, I now have to see that because he's put up 2 lines of defense, talking about his role with the Templars is something that he is mindful of and that he experiences as vulnerable to open himself up to. I am not owed him opening up to me about that. If it affects his ability to perform in the battlefield, and if my safety is at risk, I need to know that. But if I'm not at risk, and the safety of the group is not at risk, it is totally his right to say he doesn't want to talk about it. That said, it's okay to set a boundary around things you don't want to talk about. A la Sten, who when I tried to ask him about his experience, he just said, no, I don't want to talk about it. Okay. But Alistair kind of lets on. He gives kind of a mixed message that maybe he's willing to talk about it, but he's not willing to go there unless you poke and prod a little bit. So we're in a different layer of conversation right now with him. We need to tread lightly. This is a deflection. I do really want to know. Yes.
Poke, poke, poke. Tell me everything about your life, Alistair. All right, if you insist. It's not like we have anything better to do, right? The truth of the matter is that I did hate going to the monastery. The initiates from poor families thought I put on airs, while the noble ones called me a bastard and ignored me. I felt like Al Eamon had cast me off, unwanted, and I was determined to be bitter. But I took some solace in the training itself, I guess. I was actually quite good at it.
What did you enjoy about it?
The education, mostly, but also the discipline. You need to have a disciplined mind in order to use the abilities we have. It was difficult, but rewarding. I never really felt at home anywhere, though, until I joined the Grey Wardens. And Duncan felt my Templar abilities might be useful for when we encountered Darkspawn magic, so I kept it up. What about you? Do you have anywhere you consider home?
Ooh. Not anymore. Like, I really don't feel like the alienage is my home. No, not really.
We won't always be traveling like this, you know. Once the war is over, once the blight is... well, a time will come when we'll have to think about having a real home again. Though that seems like a far ways off. And I suppose the Grey Wardens are gone for good. Either way.
It can be rebuilt.
I suppose you're right. We can create new Grey Wardens, but we'll never get back those we lost. I wonder if it would ever feel the same. Anyhow, now I've sidetracked us. We'd better get back to what we're supposed to be doing right now. What do you need? Ask away.
Can you teach others to be a Templar?
I suppose I could. But I really would rather not. When the Grand Cleric let Duncan recruit me, she made me swear never to reveal Templar secrets outside of the Chantry. I'd rather not go back on my word.
I respect that. That is a good boundary.
Ask me later, perhaps. Maybe I'll change my mind. This is not something small you're asking, after all.
Oh, I'm not trying to get you to do that.
What do you need? Ask away.
Tell me about the Grey... I want to talk to... So, one of the things that Alistair seems to be responding well to is our curiosity. Right? One of the things that he cares a lot about with, like, Duncan, for example, is that Duncan took an interest in him and showed him curiosity, got to know his story, as complex as it is. One of the ways that Alistair seems to feel a sense of connection to us is to invest in his story. To maybe poke a little bit, to show him that we do care. Like, he could be putting these defenses up in part because he wants to see if I actually care or if I'm asking out of convenience. So, this is drawing him a bit closer to us, I think, in the fact that, like, we're showing that we genuinely care about this. There's no need for me to know this stuff right now. I'm asking because I'm invested in who he is and what he has to say. And for a lot of people, that's incredibly important. If you struggle with social anxiety, one of the best ways that you can break through social anxiety and have meaningful interactions is to come at people from a place of curiosity. Ask them questions. Listen to what they have to say. Respond to what they say. Rather than coming in with preconceived notions or like a plan. Just ask people about themselves. Listen to their stories. Listen for what they give more energy to in conversation versus what they don't. If you notice that there are boundaries, you don't have to necessarily break through them. But if you notice that people seem to be willing to continue talking, keep going. Another way that you can read a person's engagement in conversation is if they ask you questions in response. Like if you ask people questions and then the conversation comes to a natural end and then they ask you a question, it means that they're interested in engaging with you and they're continuing the conversation, in which case you're getting reinforcement. Alistair does that. He asks about me too. He says, anyway, do you have a home? That shows that he has mutual investment in our relationship, so it's a good way for us to kickstart. But don't underestimate the power of questions when you're trying to engage with people, particularly early on. You can learn a lot about people, and people often like talking about themselves when you get them into a space that they're familiar with, that they know, and that they're interested in. Tell me about the Grey Wardens.
Such as they are.
Where are the nearest Grey Wardens from here?
That's a good question. There's plenty in Orlais, but who knows where they might be found. And the nearest Orlesian city is weeks away. If we go north and cross the sea, there's bound to be some in the Free Marches. Again, however, I just don't know where. I don't know anything about Grey Wardens in other lands.
Or a headquarters somewhere?
Here in Ferelden, there's our compound in Denerim with the palace, but that's it. Loghain will have control over that and be watching it, no doubt. Beyond that, the only place I know of is Weishaupt Fortress. That's the headquarters of all Grey Wardens in the Anderfells, 1,000 miles from here. But I've no idea how to even contact them. So unless we try to get back to the compound in Denerim, I suppose the answer is no. There's nowhere for us to go.
Damn, so what if it's just us?
I imagine that eventually the Grey Wardens outside of Ferelden will wonder what's happened. Why there's no contact from Duncan or someone. They'll send someone eventually. Though who knows what Loghain's people in Denerim will tell them. Maybe they won't send anyone. We could try to contact them. But that would mean leaving Ferelden, and even if we did, they couldn't come back with us in time to stop the Blight. So that means whatever happens, it's up to us. About the Grey Wardens, anyhow. Fair enough. What do you need? Ask away.
I think that's good for now. Whoever told me that there's a mod to turn the dog barking off, can you DM me it? Because my god, is that annoying. Whoever decided that that was a good idea to have the dog bark throughout the entire time that you're in the camp, terrible idea. Don't do it again. Dirk.
Oh, why, you little...
What?
Your furry friend here took offense at me getting near his food. He snapped at me, look.
There's hardly any blood drawn, but yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Yeah, Dirk, what are you doing, dude?
Sometimes I forget that he's a war dog. That'll teach me.
Dirk, you gotta chill,
I once
man.
heard a really old legend about how the Hound warriors in the days of the old tribes would feed their Mabari the flesh of the vanquished. Well, that's what I heard anyway. It would sometimes be human flesh. Oh, like you can tell the difference. For all you know, maybe you've already been fed something. Someone.
Don't antagonize my dog. Come on, man. I'd never feed you another human being.
It's not cannibalism if he's eating it, you know.
Alrighty. Sten, what's up, my dude?
Yes.
I wanted to discuss something you mentioned.
Speak, then.
Never mind.
Then I suggest we move on.
I have a question.
I am hardly surprised.
Why'd you come to Ferelden?
To answer a question.
Ooh, do I ask what was the question or what was the answer? What was the answer?
Were you not at Ostagar when the army was overwhelmed? That is your answer.
Okay. Don't you have to report back?
Yes.
When are you planning to do that? I can see you're right on top of that. When are you gonna do that?
Never. I cannot go home.
How come?
It doesn't matter now. Can we move on? We keep the Darkspawn waiting. Speak, then. Then I suggest we move on. I am hardly surprised. Very well. As you wish.
Alright. He's direct. I respect that. Doesn't mean he's not a person who feels or cares about things, but he's slow to warm up, and that's okay. What's up, Morrigan?
What do you wish of me?
I'd like to ask you something.
If you must.
How'd you become a shape changer?
I was not born such. 'Tis a skill of Flemeth's, taught over many years in the wilds. The chastened have tales of we witches, saying that we assume the forms of creatures to watch them from hiding. When a child is alone and separate from his tribe, that is when we strike. Assertions. Sadly, we don't all get everything we want, do we? Mother was alone long before I...
You've been doing it for a long time, then?
Changing her form, certainly. Devouring lost children, I cannot say. She has not done it in my experience, though in truth my lifespan is but a fraction of her own. Why do you ask? Is there something specific you wish to know?
I've never heard of magic like that before.
No? 'Tis not unheard of in the remote corners of the world. There are traditions of magic outside of the circle of magi, despite what those mages would have you believe. Some of these traditions are old, indeed, passed down as carefully guarded lore from one generation to the next. The zealots of the chantry would uproot all such practitioners if they could, but as luck have it, some still exist. My mother is such a one.
I think it's okay for traditions like that to be preserved.
I am surprised you think so. Still, 'tis a pleasant thing to hear.
You change into other human forms?
The form of an animal is different from my own. One may study the creature, learn to move as it does, think as it does. In time, this allows one to become as it is. I gain nothing by studying another human. I already am the same as they are. I learn nothing. So the answer is no, my human form is the only one I possess.
Interesting, so it's more about the physics of it. You would think that, like, her ability to think as an animal does might increase her level of empathy for folks. But that might also be difficult for her to... I don't know, it's interesting that she's like, I'm already the same as they are. Because there's nuance within humans. It's It's interesting how she sees nuance in something that generally people would make a generalization of, and then she sees a very simple thing that people often add nuance to. Spend a lot of time as an animal?
There were nights when the wilds called to me, 'tis true. You look upon the world around you and you think you know it well. I have smelled it as a wolf, listened as a cat, prowled shadows that you never dreamed existed. But my life is as a human. I am under no illusions to the contrary.
It's really interesting. What a diverse way of being able to experience the environment you're in. She's not limited by her own senses. At least that's what it seems like. That's cool. What do animals think of you when you're changed?
They do not shy away from me. To their senses, I believe I seem like any other of their species. As to what they think, I truly cannot say, just as I am still sorry. Yes, 'tis a valid question. This, too, was
This conversation is
unexpected.
forked.
We are not in camp. Indeed. Have you an opinion on my abilities, then? Am I an unnatural abomination to be put to the torch?
That is interesting. Morrigan presents so confidently, speaks matter-of-factly, is unabashed in her opinions on things and her worldview. Yet telling me all of that was vulnerable. And the reason that I think we can tell that's vulnerable is because she just asked for some reassurance from me. Rather than make assumptions about where I stand, she's willing to ask. So do you have an opinion about that? I would be curious to know if that's because she cares about what I have to say, or whether that's because she herself is insecure about the things that she participates in her identity. She has spent a lot of her life, I think, trying to gain the favor of Flemeth. And my guess is that because Flemeth speaks so cryptically, one of the things that Morrigan learned to do was to ask direct questions and seek direct answers from people maybe that aren't her mother as a way to compensate for how cryptic her mother is. And it's a pretty decent skill to feel confident asking that question. What do you think? It also puts a little bit of pressure on me to be honest with her and to show her where I stand. I don't think Morrigan respects when people don't answer questions and when they just kind of remain reticent so that they appear to be in agreement with her. I think she legitimately wants to know where I fall on this, maybe just to evaluate how safe I am to her, because she's lived a life of always wondering what's safe and what isn't. Really interesting stuff there. I think your abilities sound quite useful. Man, 4 of these are terrible. This is an assumption about what she's going to feel, and that's really not a good way to put it. At the very least, unnatural. Here's the other thing. I think Morrigan is still struggling with her own identity and her own self-acceptance of it. So in her asking, am I an unnatural abomination to be put to the torch, I think there's maybe some part of her that wonders if that's the case. She doesn't necessarily know. Like, we're leaving the confines of her very homogenous world. So some of that is potentially projection or something that she's considered. People don't just say things they haven't, thought about before. I think your abilities sound useful.
Oh, you're simply full of surprises, little man, aren't you? But enough of such talk. Let us proceed, lest the dust gather on us.
We hit some real vulnerability there because Morrigan did something that she has done a couple times already, which is that basically getting in on her vulnerability there, giving her some reassurance that we value her, is a bit foreign. And my guess is that she experiences that as a loss of power, that she's gone into a one-down position, which in some ways she has by being vulnerable. So we get that little piece of overcompensation at the back end where she calls me little man to try to neutralize that. She's essentially trying to put a bit of distance here because she felt a little too close. And she calls me little man to try to say, like, you don't matter that much to me, or this wasn't as important as you think, or I still don't see you favorably because of this. It's small, it's subtle, but it is absolutely in reaction to the conversation that we just had, whether she consciously said that or not, because she has again learned that she has to control various situations. She has to be in the lead. She has to be direct and crass and unpredictable. And when she's not there and she's exposed in a way that feels maybe outside of what she's used to, she's got to recapture that control as a way to put a period on it and walk away from it feeling as if, okay, I still put him in his place. I think it's hard for her to experience intimacy with people because of how difficult Flemeth is to get a hold of.
What do you wish of me? If you must.
Is Flemeth what she seems to be?
Well, that depends, does it not? What does she seem to be?
Great question. A powerful Maleficar.
You mean, is she truly the Flemeth of legend and story? Tell me, how much do you know of the tale? The one that the chastened still tell of my mother, to frighten them into obedience.
I'm more interested in the truth.
I can relay what Flemeth once told me herself, and you can decide whether or not 'tis the truth, if you desire.
Okay.
As the tale is sung by the bards, there was a time when Flemeth was young and beautiful, a fair lass in a land of barbarian men, the desire of any who saw her.
How long ago was this?
Many centuries, before this land was even named Ferelden. The tales say that Flemeth fell in love with Osen the Bard, and fled the castle of her husband, the dread Lord Conabar, and that he swore vengeance for her infidelity. In truth, my mother claims that 'twas Osen who was her husband, and Conabar the jealous lord, who looked on from afar. Lord Conabar approached young Osen, and offered him wealth and power in exchange for his lovely wife, and Osen agreed.
That must have pissed her off.
The life of a bard is a poor one, and love fades in the wake of hunger. 'Twas Flemeth who suggested the arrangement. All would have been well had Lord Conabar kept his end of the bargain. But he was a foul man who bargained with coin he did not possess. Osen was led off to a field and slain, left for dead. Flemeth spoke to the spirits and learned of the deed, and swore revenge.
She truly loved Osen, then?
That was not the point. Conabar had no honor, so she would not have him. Flemeth begged the spirits to aid her, and 'twas they who slew Conabar. The demon the legend tells of came later. Lord Conabar's allies chased Flemeth, you see. Chased her to the wilds, and there she hid. There she found the demon, and he made her strong. The legends all speak of the great hero Cormac, he who defeated Flemeth and her great army when she invaded the lowlands centuries later. All lies.
But she never invaded, or he never defeated her?
The truth of the matter is that there was never an invasion. As Flemeth tells it, the Chastened never raised an army under her banner, and she never fought with any warrior named Cormac. Cormac led a brutal civil war against his own people, and later claimed it was to vanquish evil that had taken root amongst the lords. Thus, he was hailed a hero. Flemeth was only attached to the legend much later. Perhaps 'twas due to the great war with the Chastened that eventually came, but Mother claims not to know how it began.
Do you believe her version?
I do not believe everything that Flemeth claims. Oft it seems her bitterness has colored her memories. But on the whole, yes, I believe this tale, if not all.
How did she survive for so long?
The demon within her has transformed her into something else. An abomination, perhaps some would say. I know not. I only know my mother is clever, and she is part of the wilds as it is part of her. But she is no immortal. She bleeds. A blade in her heart would kill her like any other, were it lucky enough to find her.
Interesting story. I appreciate you telling me.
Flemeth tells it with far more embellishment than I, but you are welcome. Dare I ask of your own mother? Few are abominations of legend, 'tis true, but I find myself curious nevertheless.
What I said a little while ago, you can tell if people are interested and they actually like this conversation because they will follow up with further questions. This is one of the first times that Morrigan has shown curiosity that was beyond a bit of snark that I can remember. So we've gotten to know her a little bit, and she's basically saying, you better mutually return fire here. I'm not about to be the only one with my neck out here. And that's okay. I think this probably comes from genuine curiosity, but there's probably a little bit of that in there just based on our previous interactions with her. She died when I was born.
Ah, then you have my sympathies for what it is worth. Which is very little, I am certain. It matters not. Let us move on.
There it is. Right there. That's the window into everything we need to know about Morrigan's self-image and self-esteem. You have my sympathies for what it's worth. I'm sure it's very little. That's a projection. That's not coming from any data from me, because I've not done anything with Morrigan that suggests that I don't value her and what she has to say. In fact, this conversation was very clear evidence that I care about what she has to say. That was projection of her own issues in terms of like her belief in herself and her own esteem. Projection is when you assume that other people believe and perceive the same things you do and you interact with them as such. So that was so much less a comment about me and my lack of interest in her, and so much more an indication of her own sense that she is not interesting to those around her. Again, probably comes from Flemeth, because you'll notice that a lot of the interest that Morrigan seems to think people have in her is related to her mother, because her mother is a legend and she is well known, and Morrigan is essentially not known at all. So she's basically learned I'm boring and irrelevant. My mother is the one that carries all the interest. So I talk about my mother when people ask about me. And maybe that's by design. Perhaps Flemeth doesn't want her daughter to be as interesting because then it doesn't come with all the bullshit that we just learned about. Regardless, though, you have got to be mindful of your own self-esteem and your self-image, and be mindful that other people are allowed to autonomously make decisions about how they feel about you, and that you don't need to bias them at the outset with your own image. She didn't need to throw that qualifier in there. She could have just said, hey, for what it's worth, you have my sympathies, and then let me determine how much that's worth to me. And perhaps I could even communicate that to her. It is interesting. Also, I find it quite interesting that she created her own camp separate of everybody else out here. Perhaps it's because she doesn't want people to be bothered by her presence, and perhaps that's because she's used to being isolated out. Really good stuff.
Ah, it's good to see you, my timely rescuer. Bodon Feddick, at your service, once again. I saw your camp and remember the kind offer that you made the last time we met. And is there anywhere safer for a poor merchant and his son to sleep? I think not. I'm perfectly willing to offer you a fine discount for the inconvenience of our presence. How does that sound? Good? Yes?
You're free to stay. Just mind yourselves.
Wonderful. Thank the gentleman, won't you, boy?
Thank you, sir.
We won't be a bother to you and your companions, I assure you. If you should need enchantments, simply talk to my boy. Otherwise, come speak with me.
Cool. What do you got?
Something you need? I'm sure either my boy or I can help you out.
Tell me a little bit about yourself if you're going to hang out in my camp.
Well, if you're really interested, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to tell you. I am originally from Orzammar, the famed dwarven city that lies beneath the stately Frostback Mountains. I was a merchant there, too. Merchant caste. These things are in the blood, you know. You can't just leave them behind. I ran a fairly successful business. Rare artifacts, you know. Old things, grand things. The nobles loved them. Reminded them of the lost glory days, I suppose.
Go on.
So, as I said, things were going well. But good things must come to an end. One day, a noble woman came to my store. She looked around for a bit and then started shrieking in dismay. Apparently, she believed that a pair of braces I had for sale once belonged to her brother. He'd been lost in a cave-in, you see, while on an expedition to clear out the Darkspawn from one of the tunnels running close to the city. They were made specially for him. They're unique, she shrieked. He stole them from my poor brother's corpse. She had me arrested on the spot, of course. Nobles, they're touchy like that.
What happened then?
Well, I didn't steal them. You see, I'd been paying these castless thugs to venture out into the deep roads for me. The lost tigers. They're full of things that people left behind. Sometimes you can find a treasure. Something worth a little gold.
Better to do something with them than leave them to rot.
That's exactly how I see it. The noblewoman, she wasn't too happy with the theft of her brother's braces. I don't know what they planned for me, and I didn't want to find out. Bribed the guard that was watching me and took off for the surface first opportunity I got. Never looked back.
I appreciate you telling me about that, man.
You're quite welcome. Now, is there anything the boy or I can get you?
You didn't mention your son in your tale.
Ah, yes. I'm married to a fine woman back in Denerim, it's true. She'd give me a son if she could, but that's not likely to ever be. Sandal here. I found him in the deep roads years ago. Abandoned, I think, and he was never quite right in the head. I took him in, and I brought him with me when I came here to the surface. He may not be my blood, true, but I think of him as one.
We left Orzammar.
That's right, boy. Maybe one day we'll see it again.
It was generous of you.
It's not as if I don't benefit, mind you. Turns out the boy's a natural working with enchantments. He might have even been lyrium-addled. I never thought of that before, to be honest. Happens sometimes. He can work an enchantment into just about anything, however, given some time. Could probably open his own shop, if he knew how.
Enchantment.
Well, he does seem to enjoy it, at least.
Where did these goods come from?
Look, we don't rob people, all right? We don't take things from people that need them. The things in the Lost Tigers, what good did they do lying there? I brought them back to Orzammar, where people could look at them and remember. It's not all that different up here. There are places long abandoned by the humans everywhere. Even more now with the Darkspawn coming.
What do you mean?
People flee from the blight with good reason, but they forget things. Things with value and meaning. They leave them behind because they're frightened and desperate. And sometimes, my boy and I, we find our way to these places before the Horde descends, and we save these things. I take them away so the Darkspawn don't get them. Is that so bad? They destroy everything they touch.
His reaction there and the intensity in the way that he's defending himself at the outset of a simple question tells me he has received a lot of shit from people. So he's geared up already to be defensive here. And what's interesting about it is that it actually makes him appear to be more suspicious. It actually makes it a bit more of like your antenna go up than if he was to just speak very coolly and casually about it. And again, I want to use this as a reminder about our projections. Like, our brain makes the assumption that if we've seen certain reactions from people over time in certain patterns, that future subsequent interactions with unrelated people are bound to be the same. That I possess the same assumptions and morality that anybody else that's come across him has had, that gave him shit about the fact that he goes into the deep roads and takes these items. So there's an intensity to his voice to basically try to stave it off. It's an act of aggression to an extent. It's a subtle fight response to the anxiety associated with whatever judgments I might be making in the position of power that I'm in. He would do well to be mindful of that, so that if he talks about it casually, he allows me to make whatever meaning I'm going to make. Now, that might be dangerous. There may be times where he's been in danger because he's disclosed this. But my curiosity, I would hope, would be something that would sort of neutralize that and get him into a space where he's like, all right, maybe this guy will understand. Especially given the fact that I said to him, I led on my perspective when I said, well, better to take him than let him rot. Be mindful of preemptive defensiveness, because you actually sometimes end up exposing stuff within that you don't need to expose, and you get people wondering what the, like, trying to read between the lines when they maybe don't need to do that. It's better than letting the Darkspawn take it.
That's what I tell myself, too. Ah, these are dark times indeed. Dark times, my friend.
You heard any rumors?
I've heard a lot of stories of bands of Darkspawn roaming the countryside far north of the Kokori Wilds. They just seem to appear out of nowhere and disappear just as fast. That's what I've heard on the road, anyhow. Take it for what it is.
Anything else?
It's said the North Road Inn serves a shepherd's pie containing actual shepherds. Seems the innkeeper has something against the flocks being brought too near his own fields. That's what I've heard on the road, anyhow. Take it for what it is. Unless he sold the young Orlesian woman that married Arl Eamon, I hear tell she tried to poison her husband so she could marry his brother, Bantegan. Maker's honest truth. That's what I've heard on the road, anyhow. Take it for what it is.
I love the rumors.
I don't know what to tell you. Nothing I can think of at the moment.
All right, let me see your wares
Something
now.
you need? I'm sure either my boy or I can help you out. I'm sure you'll be pleased with the goods my boy and I have collected, and with your discount.
Love me a discount. All right, Blood Dragon helmet. Can't afford that yet, but it's cheap. Blood Dragon plate gauntlets. I gotta get my strength up, man. I want to wear that stuff. The spell word, Dalish Hunter's belt, Dwarven Merchant belt, Longbowman's belt, Ember. Damn, look at all of this. A fat loot. These don't cost me anything. A stick. King Merrick's shield. Alistair's doll. How does this guy have all this stuff? Protective cone. Ugly boot. Man, there's so many gifts in here. Chastity belt. Oh my god. Cat lady's hobblestick. Butterfly sword. Another backpack. Ooh. I do want to buy that. That's expensive, but Crushable pigeon? Man, he's got some really powerful conscriptor's foil. Proving helm. Heavy helmet. Oh, okay. Cool.
Hello. The boy's a bit simple, but he's rather good with enchantments. One of those tranquil fellas actually called him a... what was it now? A savant. I had no idea such a thing existed.
I would like some, I'd like to see what do you do?
He can fold lyrium into almost any weapon or piece of armor, though naturally some of the more extravagant materials will take more lyrium than others. It's a process that some of the master smiths back in Orzammar will perform, but my boy here is just as adept at it. Isn't that right, boy?
Enchantment!
And there you have it.
I'd like to have some done.
Enchantment!
Oh, nah, I don't, okay. Thank you, Sandal. Alright, who's this guy? Levi Dryden.
You're a hard man to find. Where are my manners? The name is Levi Dryden. Did Duncan ever mention me? Levy of the coins? Levy the trader?
Mick, but nope, can't say I ever heard of you, sir.
Really? He never told you of old Levy? We've known each other for years. But here I am carrying on while you have a blight to stop. Don't want to waste your time. But you see, Duncan promised that together we'd look into something important for the Wardens. And for me. But poor Duncan's... well, no more. A tragedy it is, at that. But I know he would want his work carried on. His pledge fulfilled.
What promise did Duncan make to you?
My family, well, past a bit checkered to see. Nobles look at us with disdain. My great-great-grandmother, Sophia Dryden, was the last Warden commander of Ferelden back when the Wardens were known as freeloaders. So King Arlen banished the Wardens, and he took House Dryden's land and titles.
What happened next?
Hard to say. After King Arlen died, there was a civil war, loads worse than this one. And our family was on the run, hunted by enemies, with nary a friend in the world. But Drydens are tough. We rebuilt, became merchants, and we never lost our pride.
What favor did you ask of Duncan?
I asked for the truth. My family reveres Sophia Dryden. We know she died at the old Grey Warden base, Soldier's Peak. We want evidence to clear her name. It won't restore our land or our titles, but it'll restore our honor.
Never even heard of that place.
Well, no one's been to Soldier's Peak since Arlen's days. At least none that's come back. I spent years mapping the maze of tunnels to the peak, and I found the way a few years back. So I went to Duncan, I did, and I said that he could reclaim the old base and my family could have its honor.
Why didn't he help you?
Darkspawn surfaced in southern Ferelden, and Duncan got plenty busy recruiting new Wardens and meeting with good King Cailan. Duncan said he would help after the Battle of Ostergar. Said there might be useful things at the peak, but he never had the chance.
We should go there.
1,000 blessings upon you, Warden. I'll mark down the location on your map. When you arrive, we'll pick our way through the tunnels together.
History of the Drydens. In the years following the siege of Soldier's Peak, all who carried the Dryden name were hunted by King Arlen's forces. Our noble Dryden name was smeared, and all lands and holdings belonging to the Drydens were seized by the crown. The king feared that the rebellion started by Sophia would be kept alive by her loyal friends and family, and anyone with connections to the Drydens suffered greatly. It is little wonder, then, that the few remaining Drydens found themselves with no allies and nowhere to turn. Tobin Dryden, Sophia's brother and guardian of her young son, had no choice but to flee Ferelden. Tobin bought passage to Antiva on a merchant vessel and traveled under the name Derricher. Once in Antiva, Tobin set about building a new, quiet life for himself and his nephew. He started a small business and eventually made a name for himself as a trader. The Derricher merchant family prospered, and the name Dryden was almost forgotten. However, in 815 Blessed, Sylvie Derricher uncovered old documents belonging to Tobin and pieced together the family's history. In her pride, and perhaps in her naivete, Sylvie reclaimed the name Dryden and returned to Ferelden. King Ireland lies dead, and the Dryden name lives on. Our family has survived, even thrived, since the death of Sophia Dryden. The nobles of Ferelden may still spit on the Dryden name, but we Drydens know that Sophia Dryden was greater than them, almost a queen, and a hero of the people of Ferelden. From the personal files of Levi Dryden, merchant. Sophia Dryden is Ferelden's light and her most brilliant jewel. Nothing on this earth can ever quench her fire. Our lesser Sophia Dryden was the young Arlen's rival for the throne of Ferelden. Dryden was a strong and charismatic leader with much support from Benorn. When Arlen finally won the crown, Dryden refused to relent. She pushed her claim, was caught, and accused of treason. Her sympathizers continued to support her, however. In order to appease them, Dryden was spared execution and forced to join the Grey Wardens instead. Dryden survived the joining and dazzled the Grey Wardens at Soldier's Peak with her leadership skills and charm. She eventually rose through the ranks to become the Warden Commander of Ferelden. Before Commander Dryden, the Grey Wardens were seen as a relic of an older time and an unnecessary drain on the nobles' coffers. Dryden, though, with her political connections, reinvigorated the Wardens and rapidly increased their numbers. In the meantime, King Arlen proved himself a devious king, willing to go to brutal lengths to silence his opponents. Arlen's reign of terror grew worse with each passing year, and some of the bands approached Commander Dryden in desperation, begging her to intercede. She agreed, and thus was the rebellion against King Arlen born. Arlen learned of the rebellion and took steps to end it. He publicly suspended all tithing to the Grey Wardens and declared that they were no longer welcome in Ferelden. Some of the Wardens, mindful that they were supposed to remain politically neutral, felt disgraced by Dryden's involvement in the Ferelden politics and left her side even as the king's forces lay siege to Soldier's Peak. The siege took months and ended with the death of Sophia Dryden. From the personal files of Levi Dryden, merchant. Damn. Cool. Wowzers. Alright, good stuff. We've learned a lot, it seems. Now, we move on. If I can figure out how to get out of here. There we go. Who will come with me?
Yes.
Sten,
Yes.
Alistair, Morrigan.
Indeed.
Now, where do we go? Brazilian outskirts? Redcliffe Village? Ooh, we could talk to Arl Eamon. What the hell?
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Let's go to Redcliffe. I don't know that I want to work my way back to Denerim yet. We'll talk to the Arl.
Look, can we talk for a moment? I need to tell you something. I should probably have told you earlier.
What's up?
I told you before how Arl Eamon raised me, right? That my mother was a serving girl at the castle and he took me in. The reason he did that was because, well, because my father was King Marek, which made Kaelin my half-brother. I suppose.
Remember when we were having that little conversation at camp, my dude? I mean, I appreciate you telling me now, but... Jesus. Wouldn't that make you heir to the throne?
Maker's breath, I hope not. I don't think so. You don't think so, do you? I'm a bastard. And nobody even knows about me. I would have told you, but it never really meant anything to me. I was inconvenient, a possible threat to Kaelin's rule, and so they kept me secret. I'd never talked about it to anyone. Everyone who knew either resented me for it or they coddled me. Even Duncan kept me out of the fighting because of it. I didn't want you to know as long as possible. I'm sorry.
Very important in this moment for me to not take this personally. It is really easy for us when we don't have understanding of his decision making and haven't had an opportunity for curiosity around it to personalize it, to look at him and say, why would you not tell me? Which is a bit selfish. He has his reasons. If you ask people the right questions and remain curious long enough, you will find that the decisions that people make, whether to disclose certain things, to do certain things, 99% of the time make complete sense to them. Alistair had his reasons for not telling me, and we just met. I'm still an unknown variable for him. So though this is useful information for me, and I might have liked to know it sooner, I'm not necessarily entitled to that information if it's not relevant to the specific moment we're in. And it's not a personal shot at me that he didn't tell me. And it's important for me to keep that in mind so that I can engage with curiosity here rather than judgment and jump to hasty decisions that maybe this was about me that he didn't disclose this, and instead is about maybe it is the fact that he just doesn't think about it much anymore, or he's worried about how I'm going to interact with him. Does Logain know?
Why wouldn't he? He was King Maric's best friend. I don't know if that means anything, though. I certainly never considered the idea that it might ever be important. At any rate, that's it. That's what I had to tell you. I thought you should know about it.
Why do I need to know? Why did you tell me that? If this isn't important, I mean, I guess beyond Logain knowing this, but why would you tell me this?
Because it will probably come up. I didn't want to walk into Redcliffe without you knowing the truth. That would be just awkward. I have no illusions about my status, however. It's always been made very clear that I'm a commoner, and now a Grey Warden, and in no way in line for the throne. And that's fine by me. No, if there's an heir to be found, it's Arl Eamon himself. He's not of royal blood, but he is Kaelin's uncle, and more importantly, very popular with the people. Though, if he's really as sick as we've heard... Oh, no, I don't want to think about that. I really don't. So there you have it. Now, can we move on? And I'll just pretend you still think I'm some nobody who was too lucky to die with the rest of the Grey Wardens.
Can't unknow stuff. Something that's really, I think, overlooked in relationships, particularly important ones, is that if you disclose something that is profoundly important or impacts the relationship itself, one of the consequences of that disclosure is that now that person knows it. You've put it out into the ether. Or not into the ether, you've put it out on the table. And that person now knows things. And people can't unknow things. Which is why unsolicited disclosure is something that the discloser needs to be very mindful of how they deliver. Particularly if you know that it's going to be a hard blow. It's okay for you to disclose that stuff depending on what it is. But you don't get to ask that person to pretend they don't know it at the outset, unless it is absolutely essential to survival, which in this case it might be. But just be mindful of, if you're going to share something with somebody that they didn't ask you for, you have to be ready for some consequences to that. Sometimes it's favorable, sometimes it's not. Alistair also needs to be mindful not to take my reaction to what he says personally as a result. Because if we get into a space where we see vulnerable disclosure as a personal reflection of something, we're going to lose sight of why it's important to know these things in the first place. Aren't you?
See? I knew you could do it. It's easy, isn't it?
Oh. Alright. Redcliffe. King Calenhad Theron once famously declared, "The fate of Redcliffe is the fate of all Ferelden." Certainly the castle is the first and last defense for the sole land route into Ferelden, and the country has never fallen to any force that did not first capture Redcliffe. The castle, which despite being 3 times captured, is popularly described as unassailable, also guards one of the largest and most prosperous towns in Ferelden. Redcliffe village is well situated near the mountain pass to Orzammar and the Orlesian border, and so serves as a center of foreign trade. For these reasons, Redcliffe is accounted an Arling despite the smallness of the domain. The inhabitants of Redcliffe village are primarily fishermen or merchants who ship dwarven goods through the pass from Orlais to Denerim. When the entire village smells of smoked fish on certain late autumn mornings, the merchants in their finery do their utmost to pretend otherwise. From In the Pursuit of Knowledge, The Travels of a Chantry Scholar by Brother Genetivi. Alistair. His old suspicions that Alistair was Eamon's son were unfounded, however. Alistair was not Eamon's son, but King Merrick's. Eamon sheltered the boy to hide his existence from Queen Rowan, Eamon's sister. Good lord, that is some drama. Okay.
All right.
Who are you?
I thought I saw travelers coming down the road, though I scarcely believed it. Have you come to help us?
What do you mean? What's up?
So you don't know? Has nobody out there heard?
I'm not gonna let on that I know anything right now. I have no idea what this guy's all about here. Is there something I should care about?
Well, yes, I expect so. If you're coming into the village, you can't avoid what's happened. We're under attack. Monsters come out of the castle every night and attack us until dawn. Everyone's been fighting and dying.
Apparently everyone seems to agree that a blight is the perfect time to start killing each other. Marvelous, really.
We've no army to defend us, no Arl and no king to send us help. So many are dead, and those left are terrified they're next.
Hold on, what is this evil that's attacking you?
I don't rightly know. I'm sorry, nobody does. I should take you to Bantegan. He's all that's holding us together. He'll want to see you.
Bantegan, our Leman's brother. He's here.
Yes. It's not far, if you'll come with me.
Oh boy.
It's Thomas, yes? And who are these people with you? They are obviously not simple travelers.
No, my lord.
They just arrived, and I thought you would want to see them.
Well done, Thomas. Greetings, friends. My name is Tegan, Ban of Rainersphere, brother to the Arl.
I remember you, Ban Tegan, though the last time we met, I was a lot younger and covered in mud.
Covered in mud? Alistair? It is you, isn't it? You're alive! This is wonderful news.
Still alive, yes. Though not for long if Ten Loghain has anything to say about it.
Indeed. Loghain would have us believe all Grey Wardens died along with my nephew, amongst other things.
You don't believe it, huh?
What, that he pulled his men in order to save them? That Cailan risked everything in the name of glory? Hardly. Loghain calls the Grey Wardens traitors, murderers of the king. I don't believe it. It is an act of a desperate man. So you are a Grey Warden as well. A pleasure to meet you. I wish it were under better circumstances. You're here to see my brother. Unfortunately, that might be a problem. Eamon is gravely ill. No one has heard from the castle in days. No guards patrol the walls, and no one has responded to my shouts. The attack started a few nights ago. Evil things surged from the castle. We drove them back, but many perished during the assault.
He's half correct. His doubt of Loghain's intentions and motives for the retreat, we know is true. That's cool. It says a little something about what he thinks of Loghain. Because remember, just because we know the truth doesn't mean that he does. So when people give us their opinion on what happened, what it's telling us is more of their relationship to Loghain and to Cailan. It doesn't tell us their relationship to the truth. I really, 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 really have to make sure that we understand that. Because if we assume that it's them understand, like their relationship to the truth, we are misguided and we don't get the right information. Does it mean that he's potentially an ally? Sure. But what it really says is that he doesn't trust Loghain, that he knows Loghain enough to know that what he did there was probably self-serving. And where he misfires is that his assumption about King Cailan is not correct. We were there. King Cailan did want to go in for glory and for notoriety and for the legends. He made that very clear to us. So Ban Tegan is showing us that he maybe had more favor for his king or his nephew out of, you know, a sense of family obligation, or he loved him, or he had more of the benefit of the doubt, or whatever it is. But it shows us a little bit of what his opinion of Cailan was, that he thinks Cailan might have been more thoughtful than he was. So again, the main point I want to make here is that because we know the truth doesn't mean that everybody else does. So we have to read their responses to these things that have happened differently. Not in relation to the truth, in relation to the people involved. So we get a better idea of their thought process in doing that. What evil things are you talking about?
Some call them the walking dead. Decomposing corpses, returning to life with a hunger for human flesh. They hit again the next night. Each night they come, with greater numbers. With Cailan dead and Loghain starting a war over the throne, no one responds to my urgent calls for help. I have a feeling tonight's assault will be the worst yet. Alistair, I hate to ask, but I desperately need the help of you and your friends.
It isn't just up to me. Though the Grey Wardens don't stand much chance against Loghain without Arl Eamon.
I don't know that I need to be antagonistic to this guy, and I do trust Alistair enough to think that these guys are probably allies. So I'm inclined to say I'll help. We need the Arl, for sure. And we have to show that we have to also be mindful of the people of Redcliffe have probably heard the same thing about Grey Wardens from Loghain that the people of Lothering did. So we need to change that representation. We need to give them this idea that the Grey Wardens are here to help, that we are not evil assholes that they need to kill for bounty. So we're going to help, if for no other reason than helping this community, but also because we got to play politics with a show of force here.
There are no darkspawn here, and nothing to gain. It is a fool's errand.
If there's a chance to rescue the Arl, man, we gotta try for the reasons I just described, Sten.
Perhaps.
How pointless to help these villagers fight an impossible battle. One would think we had enough to contend with elsewhere.
Thank you. Thank you. This means more to me than you can guess. Thomas, please tell Murdoch what transpired. Then return to your post.
Yes, my lord.
Now then, there is much to do before night falls. I put 2 men in charge of the defense outside. Murdoch, the village mayor, is outside the chantry. Sir Perth, one of Eamon's knights, is just up the cliff at the windmill, watching the castle. You may discuss with them the preparations for the coming battle.
I'd like to discuss the situation with you.
Of course.
You have some of Arl Eamon's knights here?
I have those few who returned from their quest. You know of this, yes?
Their search for the Urn of Sacred Ashes?
Yes, I question Isolde's decision to send so many knights in search of this relic. But I am a practical man, whereas she is a woman of great faith. Sir Perth was one of the knights sent on this quest. Perhaps you should speak to him if you wish to learn more.
What exactly are... let's see. What happens after this battle's done?
Hopefully we can find the source and stop it before it causes any more damage. With luck, we'll also find Eamon and be able to help him.
Why are you in the chantry with all the villagers?
Sir Perth insists. He wants me to be with the villagers, so everyone he needs to protect is in one place. I don't mind, to be honest. The point of all this is to protect the villagers, and I can do that best here. This is the last line of defense, should things go amiss.
You need more men in here with you?
We could bring some men in to stand beside me, but I'd rather keep the monsters away from the villagers if possible.
What are they?
I do not know. They seem to be walking corpses, men with rotting flesh that continue to attack even with the gravest injuries.
Undead? Spirits possessing the dead. There could be several causes behind such a thing, none of them pleasant.
Very well. Luck be with you, my friend.
Alessa is old. The one who delivers the sacred ashes of Our Lady will have the esteem of Redcliffe and all the riches it is in my power to grant. The Arling of Redcliffe was a source of constant trouble for Emperor Riville during the occupation. It was rumored that since each new report sent the Emperor into a fit of violent rage, his court had taken to poisoning messengers before they could deliver their accounts. Isolde's family was the 10th to be given the difficult task of governing Redcliffe, and since most of the previous Arls had either been murdered by their bands or beheaded by the Emperor, they did not approach the job with a great deal of enthusiasm. Can't say I blame them. Isolde met Eamon, not realizing he was the rightful heir to her father's domain, and quickly became smitten with him for being part of the resistance. Never mind that it was her family he was resisting. Perhaps a bit too romantic for her own good, she insisted upon staying behind with Eamon when the rest of her family was driven out.
What do you need? There is not much daylight left.
Tell me more about
This is
yourself.
hardly the time to be discussing personal details, don't you think? We will have to fight for our lives very shortly.
And that's why I want to know a little bit about you.
I suppose that's not too much to ask. I did not mean to be brusque.
What will you do if Arl Eamon is dead?
I don't know. If Connor lives, he'll be the Arl and I'll need to help him with it. If he's... well, I don't want to think about that.
Why have you stayed?
After the first attack, I wanted to go for help, but I couldn't just leave these people. The Bannon gear up to battle Loghain, while Darkspawn loom to the south. Loghain won't send anyone, so Redcliffe is on its own.
You're a skilled warrior?
Skilled enough to know there are many far better than myself.
Love that. The smartest people know their limits. The most skilled people know their limits. Fantastic. Love that.
Good, then my secrets are still safe. I was worried for a moment there. Very well. Luck be with you, my friend.
Okay. Well, we have got a hell of a part 6 coming up, huh? We're gonna have to kill some undead and see if the Arl is alive. I know that this was another slower moving episode tonight. We got a lot more information about our party mates when we were in camp. But I think that's really important stuff. It's good to know what we're working with. I love how rich the lore of this game is. I want to learn as much as I can about everybody here. It provides wonderful opportunities to talk about things and illustrate certain concepts. So, as always, I hope that all of you enjoy my perspective on stuff. I don't claim to be right about everything. I just share my perspective that comes from, professional experience, academic experience, and all of that. So I appreciate your support of this playthrough. I look forward to episode 6, which I'm guessing is going to have a lot of action in addition to more great dynamics. The complexity of this game is wild, and these streams move fast. All I did was talk with people for the most part tonight, and we are 3 hours in. Or 2 hours, I guess. But still, I mean, this went super fast. Regardless, leave a like on your way out. Leave a comment if you feel so inclined. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Follow all the links down in the description. And I will very much look forward to catching you in part 6. Really, really appreciate you all for your support of the stream. Catch you on the next one.